with all due respect to Chris Benoit's mother, who I can't imagine what she's going through right now, this tragedy is just horrific. But, you know, to say that this could have been avoided, even if they did bust Chris Benoit, he's got the money to bail himself out of jail, and who knows what state of mind he would have been in after that happened. You know, it's just speculation, but let's look at the real problem here. Let's look at what really killed many of these wrestlers, and that is the sport of professional wrestling, of what these guys have to put their bodies through, put their minds through, put their families through. That is what killed Chris Benoit and the Benoit family.
Well, Mark, let me jump in here because we don't have the WWE here to defend themselves, and of course we keep asking them for comments. We'd like to hear from the WWE representatives.
I'm not just saying
our doors
the WWE,
are open. Okay, well, aren't they the main?
They're
the main gig in town. They're the main gig in town, aren't they? The WWE. How many others are there?
It's the industry.
Yeah, but I mean, they're the big kahuna, let's put it that way. Why don't we talk about you right off the bat? Have you done steroids, Mark?
Yes, I did. Done steroids for about 7 years when I was a professional wrestler, and even before that to get into the business.
And impact on your health?
That I don't know yet. I mean, I've got some health issues that I'm dealing with right now, and I can't say it's attributed to steroid use, but I have to have a valve replaced in my heart. And, you know, you don't know. And you know, even though it may not be attributed to steroids, but who knows if it made it any worse.
And finally, GHB, which is the date rape drug. Have you ever tried it? Because we are getting reports now, CNN has not been able to confirm them, that allege that Chris Benoit may have tried GHB.
Well, GHB was also widely used in the 90s as a drug that you took that put you in deep wave sleep, which is stage 2 or 3, which is when your body produces growth hormone. So many wrestlers use it for that also, but it was also a drug to put you to sleep when you were on the road and you were doing the uppers and the cocaine and the drugs.
Well, Mike Brooks, CNN law enforcement analyst, former D.C. police officer. Everybody's up in arms because the DEA apparently knew that Benoit was buying steroids for quite a while. And let's bring our two wrestlers back and put them into the debating ring. They're used to being in the ring, and talk a little bit about how bad the problem is with professional wrestlers. Because Conan was on the other night and said it's a mess. There's rampant drug use. We've had other critics saying the same thing. So, Steve Blackman, what say you?
Well, I'd like the opportunity to comment on the amounts that they said the doctor was giving Benoit. They said he was giving him a 10-month supply every 3 weeks. Is that correct? And, well, my question would be is I would want to see the toxicology reports to see if it substantiates the amounts that he was giving Benoit and if he was actually taking those amounts before he jumped the gun here. Because for all we know, he was giving some of them away. I mean, he might not have been taking all those.
All right,
so
but
I would
what
like
about
to see if
the
those match
larger
that.
issue of this alleged rampant drug use?
Well, I mean, the drug use, if you're being brought broad spectrum here, steroids, painkillers, a multitude of different drugs, I mean, there's a fair amount going on. But the issue with Benoit, and I'm sticking to my opinion, that's a variety of drugs and circumstances that caused him to go on that rampage.
Okay, but you're saying a variety of drugs.
I got to step in. I got to step in. Steve, you got to get off the fence, okay? We've got a platform here to make a difference in many lives. You know how many families have been destroyed through professional wrestling deaths, wives and husbands and children? We got an opportunity now to make a change. And if we don't say there's a problem in professional wrestling and keep sugarcoating it by saying, well, you know, some guys, no, it was bad. We did steroids. We did painkillers. We did all kinds of drugs. We did whatever it took to make it to the show, to keep our spot on national television. Let's be honest for just once, please.
Steve, that was a body blow.
You can't deny. Now let me say, well, hang on a second. First of all, you can't deny that I've been honest with everything that I've said up to you.
Steve, you're so worried about everyone pointing the finger at you taking steroids. It doesn't even matter about what you did. I'm not
worried about anybody pointing the finger at me.
Every time I'm on a show with you, you talk about, I don't do steroids. Who gives a damn, okay? People are dying. Let's do something about it.
Well, Mark, you've admitted that you've done steroids. Steve, do you admit that you've done steroids?
I never took any steroids when I was in WWF, and he says, who gives a damn? I give a damn.
Okay,
I don't want to be stereotyped like that. Let me finish. You stop interrupting me for a second.
Well, that's the question.
Why don't you sit here and keep interrupting me like this?
Did you ever take steroids, ever?
In 1987 and 88, I did for a little while, but until I had an allergic reaction in 89, I never took anything since.
Okay, so so we can agree we all did steroids, whether you were in the WWE or not. I didn't do steroids in WWE. Last time I did steroids was 1994. So I did when I wrestled in WWE in 1996. Look, just admit you did steroids. That's all you got to do. Then we can move on. We can start making changes. The sport needs to be regulated
here. Well, it does need to be regulated. I'm not disagreeing with you on that issue.
Every time
I'm
I
just
talk
trying
to you,
to
you're
prove
on the
the fact
fence,
that
man. You're giving this TV this opportunity to make changes in people's life. In life, it's about doing the right thing. Let's step up to the plate and do the right thing.
Okay, well, you're all wound up here. Yes, a lot of the guys' families have been destroyed, and I agree with you, it does need to be regulated. But everyone in there is still an adult, and we do suck it up, and we all live in pain, and we all live on painkillers trying to make it through this horrible business. But it doesn't change the fact that everyone's an adult here, and they're making their own choice today. Nobody's putting them on a platter and shoving them down your throat. So you got to take a little bit of responsibility for yourself. Well, I mean, I understand what Mark's saying. I mean, I know all too well about people dying in pro wrestling. All the guys I started with back in Calgary in '88, British Bulldog, Chris Benoit, Owen Hart. I mean, the majority of my friends are all dead. I mean, there were like 10 of us that were like that for like 10 years in there. I mean, 10 years, you know, the first 10 years in the business, and all of them are dead except me. I mean, it's a brutal business.
Well,
but
you're making the opposition's point there, it seems.
Yes, but I mean, Owens was a tragic accident. Some of the other guys weren't in WWE. They were in other leagues. Yes, it's a brutal business, and we all live in pain. I live in pain constantly from being in that business for all those years. But I'm just saying, as an adult, nobody's putting that on a platter and shoving it down your throat. You know, the steroids, the painkillers, whatever. I mean, sometimes you have to just draw a line and not take as many or don't take them at all.
Mark, what do you say?
To get those few spots that are available on television, you're going to do anything to get it, whether it's taking pain medication, whether it's taking the tons of anti-inflammatories we used to have to take. We would do it to make those few spots. The professional wrestling, it's got to be regulated. There's no retirement for us. We have no health insurance. There's nothing for the professional wrestler. We're on the road for 300 days a year doing 250 venues. There's no off season. You talk about the pressure to keep your body going, to make it to the ring.
Continue wrestling over this issue. You know, Mark, it's not just about the wrestlers, it's about the kids. You guys are role models, and now we have high school athletes taking steroids because they want to look like you guys.
And that's my point, is Governor Charlie Crist just signed into law last Tuesday here in my hometown of Orlando, Florida, in the state of Florida, only the second state to do this, that we're going to be doing random steroid testing on high school athletes. That's why we've started a program here where we're going to be speaking at schools all across the state. And if you go to my website, mmbodyslam.com. Coaches and teachers, please call us, and we're going to come to your school.
Wrestlers and both friends of Chris Benoit over the state of professional wrestling. You know, so many fans said they were shocked when this happened. They couldn't believe it. But a family violence expert said, quote, he was paid to be violent and he took that violence home with him. And the wife, the ex-wife of a famous wrestler, has come out publicly saying domestic abuse is rampant in professional wrestling. Again, it's more than you guys. It's the people who are impacted. Nancy Benoit and her child are dead. And there's a woman saying that domestic abuse is rampant in professional wrestling. Steve Blackman, what do you say?
Well, I don't see the correlation with domestic abuse in professional wrestling. But the issue of all these drugs and steroids, painkillers, whatever you want to talk about in professional wrestling, yes, it needs to be monitored, regulated much better. I mean, I do agree with Mark on the issue where the guys do anything to stay on the road. You know, they start taking a couple painkillers, which is okay, but they build up an immunity, and then it becomes so excessive that over a 5 and 10 year period, they're taking amounts that would kill a normal person in a day.
Well, Mark,
and that's what
Steve just said he doesn't see a correlation between these problems and domestic abuse, but when you're experiencing roid rage because you're taking steroids and you're taking, let's say, GHB and you're drinking alcohol and you're on the road 200 days plus a year, that sounds like a prescription for domestic abuse.
Exactly. You know, when you're taking that many drugs and you're coming off the road, you're stressed out, there's a lot of things that happen on the road. It's, you know, the stress that you're involved with. When you come home, you're not always in the best mood.
Right, and I want to bring...
Well, no, you're not, but it doesn't mean the guys go home and beat their wife. in this
I'm not
domestic
saying that. I'm just saying whenever you mix drugs and alcohol and stress
Right.
and steroids, you know, it's more likely that something bad's going to happen than good. But I keep coming back
Right.
to the point that, you know, I carry this with me because it's so important. Until people see that I have wrestled 25 wrestlers that are dead, we need to do
Right.
something about this. We need to get together, Steve, not fight each other. We need other wrestlers to stand up and say enough is enough. We've got to have this sport regulated. There's got to be an off season.
Well, what
There's
kind
gotta
of
be help.
regulations? I mean, we keep talking about let's regulate it. What kind of regulations?
Well, first of all,
they have
well,
random testing, and Chris Benoit passed on April 10th at the very time that he was allegedly buying all these steroids.
Let's do mandatory testing. Let's have the proper tests brought in that they do for Olympics and some of the other sports. Now, I don't know what WWE is doing right now, so I can't really elaborate on that, but they have to have the proper testing brought in. They have to have some type of off-season. Maybe after WrestleMania, give the guys 2 months off the road. There's got to be some type of someone that's going to step up. Nobody in the industry is going to step up because they certainly are going to, you know, their profile may be raised or lowered by a writer. Who knows?